Sometimes, said the Queen to Alice, I believe in 6 impossible things before breakfast.
Sometimes I believe in 6 impossible things before breakfast. Sometimes I believe in 6 impossible things about hair before breakfast. 1. There's a potion that can get your hair back. 2. And a cake that can make it lusher than the lusciest head full of hair. 3. If you ever need a hair transplant and want 1,000,000 grafts, don't get dismayed. You can pluck them from the Cheshire Cat. 4. Who needs a doctor? I'll tell you a secret. You can do the hair transplant yourself. 5. Not only that, imagine a movie star and his hairline is yours. 6. There's a place called Wonderland and it exists in the field of hair transplant.
It has been now 150 years since Alice has gone down the rabbit hole. And this journey, which all of us have read during our childhood, gives us a great insight into how the brain works. And since this present talk is one about non-compliance to DHT blockers when your hair are thinning or after hair transplant, we will interpret the dialogues of this story in our own context of hair loss and hair transplant. Don't you think that we tend nowadays to rely so much on non-medical advice? Isn't this crazy? Or is there something in us that compels us to do so? In following this advice from non-professionals, advice from casual sources, are we not losing our sense of direction?
I wonder which way I ought to go.
And we don't really know where our interests lie.
But I just wanted to ask you which way I ought to go.
Well, that depends on where you want to get to.
Oh, it really doesn't matter. As long as I can...
Then it really doesn't matter which way you go.
So are you today spending a lot of time, a lot of your waking hours on social media, on various forums, on various other platforms that are a dime to a dozen today? Are you listening to the famous YouTubers who were till yesterday selling branded clothes and non-branded items on YouTube and now are giving you advice about your hair loss and about hair transplants? Are these the advisors you choose for your hair transplant? A hair transplant which you will get only once in your lifetime? Do you know that some of these YouTubers have got the experience of only one hair transplant, that is their own hair transplant? Are you still going to continue to believe them? In India alone, there are about 100 YouTubers, hair transplant YouTubers, most of whom are non-professionals, YouTubers who have never trained in medicine. Leave alone doing training as a doctor, they are not even paramedics. Sitting in the comfort of their homes, searching the internet, they become experts in the field. So much so that you are ready to believe in whatever advice they are giving you on a daily basis. World over, if you see, there are only about 2 or 3 YouTubers who are real professionals whom I respect, but the others are in it only for commercial reasons. Well, everybody is there for money, but being there on the YouTube platforms, on social media, only for one purpose, that is to make money, is something that is reprehensible and is non-ethical. With all the drugs, all the hair loss growth medications, and all the hair loss growth mechanical procedures that they profess and which they show every other day on the internet, and they openly declare that you can buy these equipment from their website. But still, when a person has a motive to do what he does and without a professional degree, but still you will follow his advice. So is this your Wonderland? So if you think there is nothing wrong in taking advice from these YouTubers, these social media professionals, the rest of the video may not be for you. For the others, please hang on. If someone tells you that the field of hair transplant is a field of illusions and delusions, would you agree? I would. In this video, I will discuss about the illusions and the delusions which have a direct effect on the result of hair transplant that we get. I will also discuss a patient who, because of his initial casual attitude, did not follow medical advice, did not take the drugs that were recommended in the immediate post-procedure phase, and then had a subpar result. Of course, he came back for touch-ups and then he was a happy man once he followed advice, but there is a lesson to learn from his journey, and that is what I'm also going to present in this video. Some patients, especially those who are young, bring with them a packet of delusions about the type of result that they expect. These expectations can at times be fantastic, but they are not to blame. At an early age, they have suffered from baldness, and this has left them dismayed and at times completely devastated. Usually these clients are not well researched. They have come seeking your advice and your surgical skills out of impulse. They want their original hair back, and also that the baldness should stop there itself, turning a blind eye to the advice that they need to also rein in DHT by certain medications that the doctor will prescribe. Not following this advice and thinking that they will have a head full of hair in a magical manner is one momentous delusion. The illusion, on the other hand, is innate to the procedure of hair transplant itself, as we all know. Hair transplant is a meticulously crafted illusion, for even the best doctor cannot give you full density, the density that nature has given you. Wanting to get a full look if you're grade 5, grade 6, with a donor area which is about half the size of your bald spot, and that too without leaving any donor deficit, without any signs of over-harvesting in the scalp donor. Is this an illusion or a delusion? Of course, as far as the procedure goes, it is very much an illusion, and what the patient expects is a delusion. But when these two combine, there is no magic that happens. For hair transplant is like building a house of cards, carefully constructed within the limitations of hair transplant surgery, trying to dexterously balance the inimical forces and the various variables that abound. But when you have delusions about the results, and compounded further by not heeding to medical advice, this goes beyond the scope of a successful hair transplant procedure, and the house of cards comes tumbling down, and this can be disastrous to your long-term goals and objectives of wanting a head full of hair for many years to come. So this patient underwent a hair transplant procedure, and details of this are there in the description box below. And a filling procedure was needed because of lack of compliance to post-operative medication advice, especially those medicines which are considered as DHT blockers. He was advised to take Finasteride, which he did not. So you can see, if medical advice had been followed, if he had taken Finasteride for the initial few months and perhaps a maintenance dose later, having to come back for a touch-up procedure, having to get back and get your head shaved and again wait for 6 to 9 months for the result to come, the time spent, the effort spent, the extra emotions invested in another procedure could have easily been avoided. But all's well that ends well, and he is today a happy patient following advice and following the do's and don'ts after a hair transplant procedure. And now he is a lesson to others. But do we learn from the lessons or mistakes of others? No, we do not. We have to commit the mistakes again. We have to commit the mistakes for ourselves. Not that it hurts a hair transplant surgeon. You can keep coming back to him again and again. But we do not understand this. We will not follow the free advice of a hair transplant surgeon. that there is no point in certain category of patients to do a hair transplant without finasteride, not mindful of the fact that going to the hair transplant surgeon again and again is in the hair transplant surgeon's best interest. The more hair transplant procedures he does on you, the more money he gets. But we will not understand that because the advice given to you is free of cost. But we will not understand that because we do not understand free advice. Well, it's not your fault. That is innate to us as human beings. We do not follow advice. We want to commit mistakes again and again and learn from our own mistakes and not from the lessons of others. And there is a method in this madness. Look what the Cheshire Cat said to Alice.
But I don't want to go among mad people.
Oh, you can't help that. Most everyone's mad here.
You are most likely a sane individual, very successful in your profession. But when matters come to your hair loss, we all lose control. Well, hair loss is one such thing.
Why don't you try the bottle on the table?
Table? Oh!
Read the directions, and directly you'll be directed in the right direction.
Drink me. Tastes like cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey. Goodness! What did I do?
You almost went out like a candle.
Well, we do not listen to reason. When emotions take the better of you, reason takes a back seat. At a subconscious level, we all know that what we are doing, following non-professional medical advice, not heeding to the advice of your doctor to take a DHT blocker, is self-destructive. But we are attracted like a magnet not to do so. So we take great efforts in seeking out people who have contrary opinions to the medical advice that you got. Forum posters, YouTubers, and at times even doctors. Because we cannot come to terms with our worst fears. And as what we seek, we always get. We will get people on the forums and various other social media platforms who think like us, or who at least claim to think like us. And then when there are enough of us with contrary opinion contrary to medical advice, sane medical advice, we start believing in each other.
If I were looking for a white rabbit, I'd ask the Mad Hatter.
Mad Hatter?
Mustard, yes, but mustard? Don't let's be silly.
I mean my C-A-T.
Tea?
Just half a cup if you don't mind.
And then we make a protocol of treatment, all of us together make a protocol of treatment which we feel works well for us, and we start believing in it. But opinions do not change science. Opinions do not change the way the follicle will grow after a hair transplant. There is a science behind it.
Sometimes I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast.
Baldness is due to DHT. You may take PRP, you may take so many commercial preparations that the doctor who's advising you not to take finasteride is selling in his office. But unless DHT is blocked, your progression of baldness will continue. The gains achieved by hair transplant, if any, without finasteride, will soon be lost. This is what we need to realize, and this is the reality from which we are escaping. So when embarking on a hair transplant, take your time, do your research. Do not believe hearsay. Take correct professional advice given in your best interest. Your perceptions and your reality of hair transplant and hair loss should match. If there is mismatch between these two, you will continue to be dismayed, and you will feel that the hair transplant that you have got, the result that you have got, is a failure. Well, the failure is not on the part of the doctor, but the failure is because you did not follow correct medical advice. A doctor is not a magician. A hair transplant is not a magical procedure. Delusions in the face of an illusion, which hair transplant is, due to its innate nature, compounds matters and gives the worst outcomes possible. Well, thank you for watching, and I'd attempt to drive this message again and again to you about finasteride and not doing hair transplants without the cover of a DHT blocker, because I see several patients every day who have been convinced that they do not need to take DHT blockers, that there are other solutions, other alternatives that you can take even if your baldness is aggressively progressive. Patients do not realize that this advice is born out of commercial reasons, and they succumb to it and get poor outcomes which they regret later. Starting DHT blocker after you've got a bad hair transplant, after your donor area has been compromised, is not the correct thing to do, because you have wasted precious resources, precious time, precious emotions. This is the time when a hair transplant surgeon cannot do much for you. And I hope you understand that. And thank you for watching again, and God bless you.